All right, back with you on the Bronx Buzz. I told you I'm very excited about this segment because it's one of the historic theaters in the Bronx and a play that I think is going to relate to a lot of Bronx people. We're talking about The Diamond, which is going to be at the Pregonis Theater. So let's welcome in the director, Chuck Obasi. Nice to see you, Chuck. And the playwright is Kristen Eve Cato. Nice to have you with us, Kristen. Kristen, let's start with you. Talk to me about the creation of The Diamond.
Right. So The Diamond is a compilation of three prior existing plays that were devised and written and performed by the People's Theater Project. And so my task was to take these three existing plays and combine them into one story and find the through line that connects all three narratives to create this story of revolution and of freedom. And yeah.
Let me just ask you thematically.
Hmm.
Aside from those three original works, this is an immigrant story,
It
and
is.
so as you approach this project, what story did you ultimately want to tell after you had put all three of those together?
That's a great question. So the story that we wanted to tell is how do how do immigrants and migrants like live in America and their relationships to America and their relationships to their countries and the process of immigration, the journeys that they go through, and how different that they all can be because they're not, I mean, like immigration in America is not a monolith idea. It's so many different ways
Yep.
that it comes to be. And so exploring all of those different stories and how they impact each individual and also to create and also to remember the influences, the positive influences that immigrants serve to our country and like how they help build and how they have built this country and remembering that
Mm-hmm.
even though even though laws are and policies are constantly changing.
Mhm. I tell people all the time, in fact, it came up on a earlier show that we recorded today, that I always view the Bronx as undiscovered territory. Nobody knows we're here. They don't know how we live. They have some crazy concept of who we really are. Um, the immigrant experience, it seems to me, is in that category as well. We know
Hmm.
how it's reported in the media. We know what we see about boats coming from Cuba and all the issues down at the border. But how often do we really understand what that experience really is from the perspective, just like when we talk about the Bronx, of us, of who we are? Um,
Yeah.
and so this must have been a labor of love for you, is what I'm guessing.
Right. And and me, personally, I'm also from the Bronx, born and raised. And so although I might be a daughter of immigrants, I didn't personally go through the journey. And so that's why this process was so unique, is that I was able to work alongside a cast of actors who each have their own individual experiences. And so this story is you it's authentic, it's genuine, it's actually we're uplifting the voices of these people who have gone through these experiences.
And needless to say, but I will say it, it's my job.
Hmm.
Showing it at the Pregonis Theater is, of
Right.
course, where we should have this dialogue. I mean, in the borough of Bronx.
Yeah.
Chuck, if you'll forgive me, I want to show this very short teaser, which is a video thing, even though that we're going to talk about a performance, and then we'll bring you in about the challenge of trying to tell this story in the theater. So, Anderson, if you cue up the magic box, let's take a look at The Diamond.
Come, mija. Don't be afraid. Es tiempo.
And the diamond?
When the people remember, they shall be free.
Well, there you go. Thematically, what this is, what it feels like. You saw the different nationalities. You saw the different places they come from. You could see just in the way that it was presented. Chuck, what's the challenge for you as a director when you take the concept, you take the playwright's work? You know, I always say the screenplay, but of course it's the theater movement. Talk to me about the challenge of putting this together.
Well, I would say it's hoping that, you know, the crazy inner workings of your brain will translate when all is said and done. Like I'll just say that off the bat. But you know what? Outside of that, a lot of the challenges that come with directing a devised piece, which is what this is, it's actually quite an honor.
Because you really have to create something. In other words, you can't just kind of use somebody else's work or do it based on something else. You've got to look at it and almost start from scratch, right?
Oh, you absolutely have to start from scratch, and you're telling, in a way, you're telling the story of the people in the room. You know, PTP is, I mean, it is immigrant led, and so we're bringing in these artists. And from day one, you know, back when we were creating these 3 separate pieces, you know, the material, it came from their stories, from our stories.
Those were the original that Kristen was talking about.
Yeah, and so a lot of that lingered even going into the Diamond, and so a lot of that inspiration is right there in front of you. And so there's a combination of like inserting your creative vision, and I think, you know, Cato could attest to this too, but then also like just following the stories that are right there in the room, which are from the artists.
So here's a challenging question for you as a director. To me, you've had to play with 3 aspects, of course, Kristen's vision and, you know, in the writing of it, but it's the people in the play and people represented, but also you're playing this to the people of the Bronx who are, I mean, my family, you know, my descendants were certainly immigrants. We all came from somewhere else. Many of us came from somewhere else coming here. And so, you know, when we talk about doing TV, you're always talking about the audience.
Yeah.
What was the challenge, and what did you have to do to communicate those stories as a director to the people of the Bronx who are going to be sitting in there watching this thing? And you'll hope to get some emotional charge out of it. Can you address that in some form? Because I know it's a challenge.
It is a challenge. And, you know, I started from asking myself, like, if I were an audience member, what kind of experience would I want to have being from the Bronx myself, both being from the Bronx and being the son of immigrants, Nigerian immigrants. And, you know, I just have to like tap into my experience coming here and like channeling my parents' experience as going from visitors, outsiders, to people who, you know, really dug their roots in to the point that they had a voice and they were part of the table. And that whole process and all that it entailed. And like, there was a lot that came with that, you know, from, you know, there were triumphs that came with it.
And you know, I hate to ask this question I'm going to put my hand in front of Kristen, with Kristen in the room. Did you play with any of the dialogue or anything like that? Or you took that as the Bible and you said, okay, I'm going to fit everything into those words? Or did you work together to craft something?
Lots of playing. You know, it's the nature of the devised work and the nature of just having that inspiration right there in front of you. There's a lot of, it's very much a collaborative effort.
Yeah, and I think that based on what you said, is because you call it a devised work, you creating it like that, you both got to kind of be loose about it. Kristen, again with Chuck in the room, talk about the direction and how do you feel it came out? Does it express what you wanted to express? I mean, how do you feel about
Yeah.
the way it looks and the way the people of the Bronx are going to see it beginning the 15th at the Pergonis Theater?
So what I love about this piece is that it's interdisciplinary. So there's movement, there's choreography, there's music, there's song, and there's poetry, and you're gonna hear different dialects and different languages, and so it's like going into the rehearsal process, I told Chuck from the beginning, I was like, this is just a blueprint. Like, this is a document. This is a story that this is the blueprint for, and from here, together we can build up on these different ideas, these themes, and we can eliminate words so that we can insert those moments with actual visceral moments.
Uh,
Because I think one of the things we want our audiences to feel is that we want them to feel seen too. And sometimes feeling seen is by seeing these bodies on stage. It is not always the words.
I was smiling. I wasn't on camera when you were talking, but I was
Okay.
smiling. And the reason I was smiling is because when you talked about the music and the poetry and the dialogue and the dialects and everything else, I said, you've now captured my hometown borough of the Bronx. This is
Right.
what the Bronx is. If you don't have you'll have a chance to reach all the people as a result of that. So we're almost out of time. Just talk about why this is. We'll give you each a chance. We'll start with you, Chuck. Why is this so important to you, and why are you thrilled to be able to present it to the Bronx beginning April 15th?
It's really important. It's really important to me because I think the journey of coming to a table and then just becoming part of that table as a member, not just a visitor, that's worth commemorating. And I think,
Which is I got to move it along because we're almost out of
yeah,
time. Which is the task, the lifelong task of every immigrant who's ever stepped foot in our country, but certainly in our home borough of the Bronx. Kristen, your thoughts on that? We'll give you about 30 seconds, and then we want to promote the buying of the tickets for the show.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think the importance is that it creates empathy and understanding, especially since we're living in a world right now where there are so many people migrating, especially and coming to New York City too. And so I think it's really, really important that we understand the experiences that these people are coming with, and that we create more solidarity. And it's
Not
also a
only
call to action.
Yeah, I mean, solidarity, but to begin with, who are they? Who are they
Right,
really?
right.
What are they thinking
Hmm.
about? I mean, listen, congratulations on The Diamond. The show will run from April 15th to the 23rd at the Pergonis Theater, of course, is on Walton Avenue, 575 Walton. Tickets available at the peoplestheaterproject.org at The Diamond /The Diamond. We'll put that up on the screen. And it's worth families to come and see, to
Absolutely.
families to see who your neighbors are and who we
Hmm.
are together, and that way we can come to common understanding. Listen, Chuck Obasi, the director, and Kristen Eve Cato, the playwright, thank you for doing your work, and thank you for your passion, and thank you for bringing it to the borough of the Bronx, the Pergonis Theater, beginning April 15th. Come out and see it, right?
thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Yes,
you.
thank you.
Great work. Such important work in our home borough of the Bronx. So, folks, that will do it for us on the Bronx Buzz. What a fine show! With you get the passion of the people of the Bronx in our first segment and in our second segment, and that leads us to say what we say every week. We'll see you next week. Good night.